So, that was a hell of a way to start. Holy moly. Alright. Hey guys, what's going on? It's Daniel Strum from QuickTime Reactions, and we're going to be doing something a little different for this. Normally, I would cover a show at the end when it's all said and done. But I think, just for this case, and I may start doing this more and more often, but I think this is more special and deserving right now. We are going to talk episode by episode of Daredevil Born Again. And I'm so looking forward to talking about this. Set a few years after the events of the Netflix show, we see the gang reunited again, but of course there's more villainy in Hell's Kitchen that needs to be cleaned up. And with Fisk as mayor now, it's going to get a lot more interesting to try and clean up crime in New York. So, like I said, this is a kind of a continuation of the Netflix show, in a way. And, you know, they definitely put their own spin on this, for sure. Just as a heads up, this is going to be spoiler filled, just to get that out the way. I'm going to talk spoilers, and it's going to be very interesting. So, without further ado, let's get into episode 1, Heaven's Half Hour. We open up on our trio, of course, Murdoch, Paige, and Nelson. Charlie Cox, Deborah Ann Wool, and Eldon Henson, as they close up shop for the day and head to Josie's, where they're sipping on drinks and having some fun when a mysterious guy by the name of Benny calls Foggy on his phone to let him know that he's looking for him. Matt, of course, suits up in his costume and tries to find out where this is all happening, but of course, it is Benjamin Poindexter, Bullseye, Wilson Bethel returning to the show, and he shoots Foggy. He has a couple of smoke grenades and smokes out Josie's, but it was lucky that Cherry, played by Clark Johnson in the show, and I believe Heather Glenn. I don't think it was Heather. I'm trying to remember the name of the character, but another cop that Cherry was close with. They clear out the bar, but Ben and Matt get into a really long oneer. Of course, oneers were a staple in the Netflix show, and I think they did a pretty good job with this oneer. I want to know if this was a true oneer, because a lot of people pass in front of the frame, so I'm just wondering if they actually did shoot this in a oneer, and if they did, that was really awesome. Ends up on the roof, and Matt, with using his heightened hearing, hears Foggy's heart stop, and Foggy's dead. And just for good measure, Matt chucks Poindexter off the building and hits the ground hard. And he basically chucks his cowl. Doesn't chuck the cowl, he lets his cowl go off of the roof, and we get that shot from the trailer of his cowl falling with all the police and the ambulance and stuff like that happening, which leads into the opening credits for the show, which I think are really, really good. All of the stuff kind of crumbling, police, the courts, the church, and even his own Daredevil mask, and it slowly comes together to make Daredevil again. I thought that was a really cool touch. Episode 1 was directed by Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, which are a couple of the guys who did a couple of episodes of Moon Knight, and was also written by David Scapeno. I believe I'm saying his last name correct, who was one of the original showrunners on the Netflix show. So, there you go. A year has passed since Foggy was killed, and Poindexter is now on trial for killing 11 guys in on that night, and he is sentenced to life for each of one of those. Karen does show up at the trial just to kind of support um, the trial and just to think of Foggy. And I really liked the conversation that they had in the courthouse, where they both want to be together, but they also just they're both in mourning and they're just want to both be their separate ways. Meanwhile, Fisk is currently running for mayor, and he is slowly but surely gaining support, and but things are also rocky with his relationship with Vanessa, and I really like their dynamic in this, where it's like she definitely seems to have the power over him, and he has certain cards that he has against her, and it's like there's I love this dynamic where it's like two people have aces up their sleeves, they just don't know when to play it, and I absolutely love that. Fisk is, of course, elected as mayor, and the diner scene in which they released on YouTube with Kingpin and Matt talking in that diner, basically just saying, "Look, stay in your lane, and we won't have to fight each other." That's basically all the conversation they had. But it's a credit to Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio that you hang off of every single word that they say, and I absolutely love that. The episode ends with kind of the two parallel shots of Fisk looking out over a roof to the city in which he's now been elected, and Matt looking up in the sky, almost like they're looking down, or Fisk is looking down at Matt. Matt is looking up at Fisk. I love that final shot. Matt bathed in red lighting, whereas Fisk is sometimes illuminated by the is it either spotlight or maybe helicopter lights, one of the two. I just really like that final shot, and that was a really, really big first statement. Moving on to episode 2, titled Optics. Fisk is trying to ingratiate himself with the people. His aide, I'm trying to see here. I think it is Sabrina Guevara that plays Fisk's aide, Sheila Rivera, I believe. Saying, like, you need to ingratiate yourself with the people and all the places in New York, like the police station and all that stuff, because you want to be a man of the people. And Fisk sees they're stopped in traffic, and Fisk sees that there's a hole in the road, and he's like, "Well, why don't you fill that hole?" And the workers are like, "We don't have the permit." Well, Fisk said, "You do now." And they start filling the hole, and everybody's, of course, filming it and seeing that he is a man of the people. Also, I loved in his New Year's speech, he talked about, the city doesn't need to be saved by a guy who wears a skull on his t-shirt, or a guy who dresses up as a spider, or as a guy who dresses up as a devil. Of course, obviously referencing Punisher, Spider-Man, and Daredevil. I really, really love that. Also, I need to give a shout out to Michael Gandolfini, who played Daniel Blade in the show. I think he does a really good job as a person who wants to support Fisk and will do so to maybe not an extreme level, but a level that is so far tolerable. Matt is working at a new law firm, Murdoch and McDuffie. Kirsten McDuffie, played by Nikki M. James, she also does a really good job in this. And Kirsten tried to set up Matt with Heather, Margarita Levieva. Again, sorry about last names. And that happened in the first episode. Now that seemed to be more of a thing in this second episode. But this episode deals with Hector Ayaya. Again, sorry for last names. Played by the late Karma de los Reyes. He will eventually. They actually did show him on a news report as White Tiger. He was convicted of killing a police officer, and Matt Murdock takes on his case, even though it would very firmly put him against the officers. But he still takes on that case because he knows that he is innocent. Of course, he keeps digging and digging until he eventually finds the witness, or the person that was getting robbed by these officers, and basically tells him to get out of there, and that Cherry would be waiting for him in a park to pick him up and bring him to safety. Which then leads us to the apartment fight that we saw a bit of in the trailer, where Matt breaks the dude's arm, and I think also in this fight he slams him against not necessarily a wall, but like a place where there's beams and it breaks. Matt chucks the other cop into a fridge, and he's bloodied up, and brings him down onto his neck. And I was like, ooh, it might have killed a person. But of course, Matt saying to Fisk, "I've left my darker half behind." Well, clearly, the darker half got out a little bit there in that fight, and that's where episode 2 ends. I really like these first 2 episodes. It definitely sets the tone, and even though it was a brief welcome back for all 3 of them, I really liked seeing Charlie Cox, Deborah Ann Wool, and Ellen Henson all together. I just really, really liked seeing them. The fights are really, really good. I really like also the cinematography in this and how every shot is framed. The relationships between the characters are still really, really strong, and all of the new characters I also find very, very interesting as well. My one nitpick is maybe the CGI is but that's been the case for Marvel for quite some time, so I'm used to it by this point. But yeah, first 2 episodes of Daredevil Born Again, really, really good. And I can't wait for next week for episode 3. But until then, guys, I'll catch you later.